What would you do if someone tried to take away your prized possessions under false pretenses? In today's story, a vintage car enthusiast finds himself embroiled in a web of deceit, legal threats, and unexpected revelations. But this isn't just a story about cars, it's about trust, legacy, and standing up for what's right. Stay tuned for a journey that starts with classic cars but ends with valuable life lessons. I never could have imagined that a simple, casual visit to my co-worker's house would unexpectedly lead me to a life-altering experience that changed my perspective entirely. It all began on a crisp weekend morning when I volunteered to help his elderly mother with some house maintenance tasks that had been piling up. As I parked my trusty 1975 Falcon in their driveway, I noticed an elderly woman standing near her garden. She appeared vibrant, even in her 90s, with an elegance that reflected years of experience and grace. Her name was Elaine. Elaine greeted me warmly, her eyes lighting up when she noticed my car. "That's a beautiful Falcon," she said, with genuine admiration in her voice. "It reminds me of the cars my late husband used to cherish." Intrigued by her comment, I struck up a conversation, and it quickly became evident that Elaine had a deep connection to vintage cars. A passion she had shared with her husband during their long marriage. As we talked, Elaine revealed that her late husband had left behind a collection of classic cars. "Would you like to see them?" she asked, her tone a mix of nostalgia and hope. I agreed, curious about what treasures might be hidden in her garage. Elaine led me to a modest structure at the edge of her property, its weathered doors hinting at years of stories contained within. When she opened the doors, I was greeted by a sight that took my breath away. Inside the garage were 5 vintage cars, each one standing as a testament to an era of automotive artistry. 3 of the vehicles were in pristine condition, their chrome and paint gleaming under the soft light that filtered through the dusty windows. The other 2, though showing signs of wear and rust, had an undeniable charm, as if they were patiently waiting for someone to bring them back to life. Among the collection were 2 iconic Australian classics, a Holden Monaro and a Ford XY GT. Elaine spoke fondly of her late husband's dedication to these cars, recounting how he had spent countless hours restoring them with meticulous care. "He used to say these cars were like members of our family," she said with a wistful smile. "They were his pride and joy." Elaine's voice grew softer as she explained her dilemma. "Since his passing, I've been unsure what to do with them. I want them to go to someone who will appreciate them as much as he did, not someone looking to make a quick profit." She paused, looking at me earnestly. "I feel like you might be that person." She offered to sell me the entire collection for $55,000, a price far below their market value. Her sincerity was evident. This wasn't about money but about preserving her husband's legacy. I hesitated, weighing the financial commitment against the opportunity to own such a remarkable collection. Elaine sensed my hesitation and assured me, "Take your time to think it over. But know this, these cars were loved deeply, and I want them to bring joy to someone who will continue to care for them." After much thought, I decided to take the plunge. A week later, I returned with the payment, and Elaine handed me the keys with a mix of relief and bittersweet emotion. As a final gesture, she gave me a small notebook filled with detailed notes her husband had kept during the restoration process. "This might help you understand the love he poured into these cars," she said, her voice tinged with pride. Owning these cars felt like inheriting a piece of history, a legacy filled with stories and memories. The journey that began with a casual visit to a neighbor's house had transformed into a profound lesson about trust, passion, and the value of preserving the past. Elaine's remarkable kindness left a lasting impression on me. 2 of the cars were promptly registered for historic purposes, proudly carrying Elaine's legacy forward. The 3rd car was carefully stored, preserved for a future yet to unfold. Life continued as normal until I received devastating news that shook me to the core: Elaine had passed away. Though she lived a long and fulfilling life, the loss felt deeply personal, and I couldn't help but reflect on the trust and generosity she had shown me. Not long after her passing, a series of unexpected phone calls began. The voice on the other end introduced himself as Elaine's grandson, his tone initially polite but quickly turning accusatory. He claimed that the cars were rightfully part of his inheritance and insisted that I had no legal right to them. At first, I was baffled. The deal with Elaine had been transparent and fair. Why was this man surfacing only now? His accusations escalated rapidly. What started as sharp words turned into heated threats, with promises of legal action if I didn't return the vehicles immediately. Then came the day he showed up at my doorstep unannounced. Dressed in a sharp suit. He handed me a business card identifying him as a lawyer. "I'm here to settle what belongs to my family," he said, his voice cold and assertive. The encounter was surreal, leaving me with a gnawing sense of unease. Despite his professional demeanor, something about his approach felt insincere. His threats, though intimidating, didn't align with the warmth and transparency I had experienced with Elaine and her family. The harassment didn't stop there. Over the following weeks, I received numerous text messages and voicemails. His words grew more menacing, accusing me of exploiting an elderly woman and warning of dire consequences. It was a deeply unsettling experience that left me questioning how far he would go. Seeking clarity, I reached out to my coworker, whose mother had been a close friend of Elaine's. To my surprise, she revealed that Elaine didn't have any grandsons. Her family consisted only of 2 adult children and a few nieces and nephews. This revelation was a turning point. If this man wasn't her grandson, who was he? Further conversations with Elaine's son and daughter confirmed my suspicions. They had no knowledge of this individual, nor did they support his claims. "Our mother was very clear about what she wanted," her son explained. "She wanted the cars to go to someone who would value them, and we're happy she found that person in you." Eventually, I uncovered the truth. The man claiming to be her grandson was actually the ex-partner of Elaine's granddaughter, a man with a troubling financial history. His motives became clear: this wasn't about legacy or family, it was a desperate attempt to claim assets of value. With this knowledge, I knew I had to stand my ground. Elaine's trust and wishes were worth protecting, and I resolved to honor her legacy no matter the cost. Seeking clarity amidst the chaos, I turned to online forums and articles, hoping to find advice from those who might have faced similar predicaments. The process was surprisingly enlightening. As I came across discussions about inheritance disputes, fraudulent claims, and the importance of documenting transactions. While the insights were valuable, they didn't quite address my unique situation. I needed more concrete answers. Around the same time, I decided to bring up the issue with my coworker during a casual conversation at lunch. He listened attentively and suggested I speak with his mother, who had been close to Elaine and might offer some perspective. Intrigued, I arranged to visit her that evening, hoping she could shed light on the so-called grandson's sudden appearance. Her response left me stunned. "Elaine didn't have any grandsons," she said matter-of-factly, her tone carrying a mix of certainty and disbelief. "She had 2 children and a few nieces and nephews, but no grandsons." This revelation was a game-changer. If this man wasn't who he claimed to be, then who was he, and what were his motives? The questions swirled in my mind, transforming my confusion into determination to uncover the truth. Armed with this newfound information, I reached out to Elaine's immediate family, explaining the situation in detail. Her son and daughter, though initially surprised by the claims, were eager to help. Together, we began piecing together the puzzle. They confirmed that Elaine had been very clear about her intentions before her passing. The cars were to be sold to someone who would appreciate them, not kept as family heirlooms. As we delved deeper into the mystery, the man's true identity came to light. He was not a blood relative but the ex-partner of Elaine's granddaughter. Further investigation revealed a history of financial instability, including significant debt that seemed to have driven him to such desperate measures. It became evident that his motives were purely selfish, an attempt to exploit Elaine's passing for personal gain. The discovery left a bitter taste, but it also provided much-needed clarity. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for someone so consumed by his own troubles that he resorted to deceit. However, my sympathy didn't outweigh the need to protect Elaine's wishes and the legacy she had entrusted to me. Elaine's son and daughter were supportive throughout the process. "Our father always said the cars should go to someone who loves them as much as he did," her son remarked during one of our discussions. "You're that person, and we're grateful they ended up with you." Their words were reassuring, bolstering my confidence in my actions and solidifying my resolve to stand firm. With their blessing, I knew it was time to take proactive steps to address the situation through legal channels. My lawyer and I began compiling the evidence, Elaine's handwritten notes, the sale agreement, and the testimonies from her children, all of which painted a clear picture of her intentions. Armed with this solid foundation, I felt ready to confront the false claims and protect the legacy Elaine had so graciously shared with me. The ordeal was far from over. But uncovering the truth had given me the strength and clarity I needed to move forward. Elaine's trust, and the reassurance from her family, reminded me that standing up for what's right often requires persistence, even in the face of deception. This was no longer just about the cars, it was about honoring the memory of a remarkable woman and the principles she stood for. The harassment from the individual posing as Elaine's grandson did not cease, in fact, it only intensified over time, pushing my patience and resolve to their limits. His visits to my home became more frequent and increasingly aggressive. Each knock on the door was accompanied by a sinking feeling in my chest, as I never knew how far he might go. His demeanor was a mix of entitlement and intimidation, as though his persistence alone could force me into submission. It wasn't just the in-person encounters that troubled me. My phone became a constant source of anxiety, buzzing incessantly with calls and messages from him. His voicemails, often left in the dead of night, were riddled with veiled threats and accusations, each one more disturbing than the last. The text messages were relentless, ranging from demands for the car's immediate return to unfounded accusations of fraud and theft. The tone grew darker as time went on, making it clear that he was determined to wear me down by any means necessary. I knew I couldn't let this continue unchecked. The first step I took was to document everything meticulously. Each voicemail, each text message, and every interaction at my door was recorded with precise dates, times, and content. It felt tedious and emotionally draining, but I knew this evidence would be crucial if the situation escalated further. I also installed additional security measures at my home, including cameras at the front door, to ensure that I could monitor his visits and protect myself. Seeking professional advice was the next logical step. I reached out to my lawyer, explaining the entire ordeal and providing him with the detailed records I had kept. He commended me for my diligence and assured me that we had a strong case to defend against the harassment. Together, we crafted a strategy that included filing formal complaints with the appropriate authorities and his employer. My lawyer emphasized the importance of taking action not just for my own peace of mind but to set a precedent that such behavior would not be tolerated. The process was nerve-wracking. Filing complaints meant revisiting every unsettling interaction, reliving the moments of fear and frustration. Yet, as difficult as it was, it also brought a sense of empowerment. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I was regaining control over the situation. The complaints were thorough, supported by the extensive evidence I had collected, and directed to the relevant parties who could take action. Not long after the complaints were filed, I received news that brought a sense of vindication. The individual had been dismissed from his job, and not just because of my case. It turned out that his misconduct extended far beyond his dealings with me. His employer uncovered a pattern of unethical behavior that had gone unchecked for too long. Knowing that his actions had finally caught up with him was a relief. Though it didn't erase the months of stress he had caused. Through it all, what sustained me was the memory of Elaine's unwavering trust in me and her desire to see her husband's cherished cars in the hands of someone who valued them. I reminded myself that standing up for what's right often comes at a cost, but it's a cost worth paying when it means preserving integrity and honoring someone's legacy. This experience taught me the importance of resilience and the power of truth. While the harassment left its mark, it also reinforced my belief in the importance of standing firm against deceit and intimidation. In the end, I knew I had done the right thing, not just for myself, but for Elaine and the legacy she had entrusted to me. To add even more depth to our conversation, I'd like to share a few captivating side stories that truly highlight the emotional significance of these cars. During one of my visits to Elaine's garage, she took the opportunity to recount how her late husband had poured countless hours into restoring each vehicle. Her eyes sparkled with nostalgia as she described him working late into the night. Sleeves rolled up, tools in hand, completely immersed in his craft. The soft hum of his favorite jazz tunes would fill the garage, blending seamlessly with the clinking of wrenches and the occasional rumble of an engine roaring back to life. Elaine's words painted a vivid picture of a man deeply passionate about his work. But what stood out even more was how much she valued those quiet moments they had shared together. She often brought him a cup of tea, she said, and would sit nearby, reading a book or simply enjoying the peaceful rhythm of his dedication. He wasn't just restoring cars, she remarked with a wistful smile. He was preserving memories, both ours and those tied to the roads these machines had traveled. One story she shared stood out in particular. The Falcon, she told me, was more than just a car. It was a symbol of their early adventures as a married couple. She laughed as she reminisced about their honeymoon road trip, cruising along the coast with the windows down, the salty sea breeze mingling with the scent of fresh leather seats. We had nothing back then except that car and each other, she said. But that was all we needed. Her laughter turned into a brief, thoughtful silence before she added, "Every time I see that car, it's like a little piece of him is still here." Her stories not only deepened my appreciation for the cars but also underscored the profound connection they had to Elaine and her husband's life together. I found myself imagining the joy and love that had filled those moments, making me even more determined to honor their legacy. Another memorable subplot revolves around my first experience driving one of these beautifully restored cars. It was a sunny afternoon, and I decided to take my father along for the ride. A lifelong car enthusiast himself, he had a deep appreciation for classic models, and I could tell he was as eager as I was. As I turned the key and the engine roared to life, his face lit up with a mixture of excitement and nostalgia. We drove through winding country roads, the hum of the engine filling the air as the scenery blurred past. My father began sharing stories from his youth, describing the cars he had driven when he was my age. His voice carried a warmth and enthusiasm that I hadn't heard in years, and his vivid descriptions brought those bygone days to life. It was as if the car had unlocked a treasure trove of memories he hadn't revisited in decades. One story, in particular, stood out. He spoke of a similar road trip he had taken with his own father, driving a car much like the one we were in now. It was a rare moment of vulnerability, a glimpse into his past that I hadn't expected but cherished deeply. The happiness that radiated from him during that ride was palpable. And I realized that these cars weren't just machines, they were bridges connecting generations, carrying with them the echoes of shared experiences and unspoken bonds. By the time we returned home, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for the cars themselves, but for the memories they had already begun to create in my own life. Elaine's generosity had given me more than a collection of vehicles, she had given me the chance to forge new connections while honoring old ones. It's a feeling I know I'll carry with me forever. This journey taught me more than just the importance of legal documentation. It underscored the value of kindness, the importance of standing up to bullies, and the enduring power of trust. Elaine's generosity wasn't just about cars, it was about preserving a piece of her life story and passing it on to someone who would honor it. For anyone watching, remember this: sometimes doing the right thing means going the extra mile to protect what matters. And when faced with deceit, let the truth be your strongest ally. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales of trust, lessons, and unexpected twists. Until next time. Cherish what you value and stand firm in the face of challenges.